To optimize endurance training, sports scientists try to pinpoint two exact physiological boundaries: the aerobic threshold, where easy efforts turn moderate, and the anaerobic threshold, where effort becomes unsustainable. Finding these limits traditionally requires expensive laboratory equipment. Athletes run on treadmills hooked up to respiratory gas masks to measure oxygen exchange, or pause repeatedly for invasive blood lactate draws. A mathematical metric called detrended fluctuation analysis alpha-1, or DFA-A1, offers an alternative. It calculates these physiological boundaries using the data from a standard heart rate chest strap. By extracting complex biological data from an everyday wearable, athletes can bypass the laboratory entirely and run clinical-grade diagnostics on their own time. A healthy resting heart rate does not beat like a metronome. The intervals between beats vary constantly on a micro level. This variability is highly structured. The autonomic nervous system constantly modulates the heart rate, producing a highly ordered fractal pattern of beat-to-beat intervals that repeat across different timescales. When researchers run this resting state data through the DFA-1 algorithm, they look for a specific mathematical correlation. A perfectly balanced resting fractal pattern produces a score of exactly 1.0. That 1.0 score is the mathematical signature of a biological system operating in perfect responsive equilibrium. During an incremental ramp test on a treadmill or bike, intensity steadily increases. As muscles demand more oxygen, the body's parasympathetic system, the rest and digest branch, withdraws its influence. Stripped of this parasympathetic modulation, the heartbeat loses that rich fractal complexity. The timing between beats becomes rigid and mechanical. This scatter plot shows DFA-1 during a ramp test. Past an easy pace, the dots trace a linear drop towards 0.75. The arrow pointing to HRVT lands exactly at 0.75. Research aligns this drop with the aerobic threshold, the limit of low-intensity training. Pushing the pace beyond this boundary forces the cardiovascular system to rely almost entirely on sympathetic drive to meet the physical demand. The DFA-A1 score crossing 0.75 marks the exact moment the body shifts its primary metabolic engine to handle moderate physical stress. Continuing the ramp test to maximum effort pushes the athlete toward their anaerobic threshold, where lactic acid accumulates in the blood faster than it can be cleared. At this severe intensity limit, the DFA-A1 score drops to 0.50. All correlation in the beat-to-beat intervals vanishes, degrading into random white noise. Sprinting toward exhaustion drops the score below 0.50. The heart locks into a rigid, alternating rhythm as control mechanisms hit maximum capacity. Crossing that 0.50 line signifies a physiological brink, where systemic integrity begins to shut down in order to protect the organism from damage. Group-level studies validated these threshold numbers, but testing athletes at the individual level reveals significant statistical noise. This bland Altman plot shows the variance between the DFA-A1 predictions and actual respiratory thresholds. For some specific individuals, the 0.50 and 0.75 marks miss their true physiological limits by 10 to 20 beats per minute. The math itself introduces another hurdle. Calculating these fractal properties requires approximately 160 heartbeats of data, creating a necessary 2-minute rolling window to generate an accurate score at low intensities. Because of this built-in lag time and individual biological variance, DFA-A1 cannot function as a blind, universal calculator for real-time heart rate zones. Applied sports scientists now use DFA-A1 differently. Instead of hunting for absolute zone numbers, they use it to map relative physiological shifts over long training blocks. By tracking the specific heart rate at which an athlete's DFA-A1 score crosses 0.75 during identical workouts, a clear pattern emerges over consecutive months. An athlete testing in January crosses the 0.75 threshold at a heart rate of 145. By March, that crossing point shifts to 152. This rightward shift proves their aerobic capacity has expanded, allowing more physical work with less physiological stress. It serves as a highly personalized longitudinal compass for tracking long-term adaptations. While traditional heart rate variability metrics are collected while an athlete is asleep or resting in a chair, DFA-A1 measures the specific quality of biological stress while the body is in active motion. If the DFA-A1 score drops unusually fast or prematurely during a standard low-intensity warm-up, it acts as an immediate early warning system. This accelerated loss of fractal complexity reveals deep strains on the organism, pointing to cumulative systemic fatigue, unhealed muscle damage, or early overtraining. A standard heart rate monitor might show a perfectly normal 120 beats per minute, completely masking the internal biological chaos taking place. Elite performance requires maintaining complex biological order within the extreme chaos of physical effort, not simply outputting a high volume of heartbeats.